Hello and welcome back. We're going to take one more example of using card, but this time it's going to be a little bit more intricate, and this is what we're going to do. We'll be implementing different components inside this card. Now let's get started. I'm going to put in just the basic description. The first description is card tree, and then this centers whatever we put in between here. Let's start designing our card from here. I'm going to do a div and then begin the class implementation. Is going to be a flex. It's going to be a flex column. If you check, you'll see that all the components, this is a set of components, and then this is another set of components. So they are in columns. And so it's going to be a flex call. We'll start with flex call, and then we justify around an items center. Then I'm going to make it BG Sky 950. That's this color. Sky 950. And then I will have a padding of 5. And then the width will be a custom width of 450 pixel for the card. And then a rounded edge of 3XL. So it looks this way. So everything we do now will be inside the card. Now let's create the search session. That is this session of the card. And you will see it is more like a 3-column session. It has the search, and then it has 2 buttons. So let's try to do that. I'm going to say session. It's going to be a flex that is justify between item center. Everything there will be centered, and then I'm going to give it a space X of 7. Basically what I'm doing is saying spread all these 3 items and then give it this space X of 7 on horizontal space 7. So everything that comes in here, the first that will be there will be the search box, then 2 icons. So I will say this is the search box, and then I'll have 2 icons. Let me make this text white so that you see this is the first item. The search box will go in here, and then we have the 2 icons. We have 2 icons coming in here. The first icon will be a bell icon, and then the second icon will be an envelope icon. So I'm going to put the icons here. This is the bell icon, and I'm going to give it a size of 7. That is height 7 and width 7. And then the background will be cyan. No, not the background. The text, you can also use fill to change the color to 900. And I'll do the same thing for the envelope icon and also give it a size of 7 and then a text of cyan 700. So we have the icons, and then the search will come here. We're going to be doing the search later. These 3 rows are spread around the section space. I'm going to make the width of the section to be full so that it can actually spread across the whole thing. So you see we have search and all this spread across. Let's put some description on it. This is the search section, and inside the search section we have the search button and the icon, which will be here, and then we have the bell icon and then the envelope icon. Now let's do the search inputs. There are several ways to do this. The way we want to take is to make the outer container looks like an input, but not actually an input. So let's just say a border. Let me place the border first, and then make it a flex so that everything we put will be in a row format. So we're going to put an icon, and then we'll put the input after the icon. Just so you get the layout, I'm going to put a text white. I will say SVG icon or search icon. That's what is going to be here. And then after the search icon, we'll now put in the input control. So you see, now we have this external div. The external div is flex, and it has the icon and the input in a row. Now let's give this flex some styling. I'm going to say items center. Then it should be rounded LG, and then padding 4. So you see now the external div begins to look as if it is the input control. We have padding 4, that is a horizontal padding, and then vertical padding 2 will be here. I'm going to actually take out these and put an SVG, but I'm just putting it here now so that you can see the two working together. And I'm going to do a border gray 400 and give it some, make it transparent, 50% transparent, and then I'll give it a full width. So it pushes the other images to the side because I'm giving it a full width. Let's also style the input. Let's give it a background of transparent because we don't want it to look as if there is an input there. And we take out the outline none, so that when you click on it, it doesn't show any outline. And then the text gray, so that when you type it will be gray 300. Then margin left will be 2. We also put a placeholder. Let me type out the placeholder. Placeholder will be this content. Now let's also style the placeholder. We'll say make the placeholder text to be small. Okay. And then also the placeholder text to be gray 500. And that's just about it. You remember we're going to have an icon here. This place will be replaced with an icon. Let me also put on the input a width of full so that it spreads a little bit out. So here we have the input, and now we can add here the image. That is, we'll replace this with the image. I'll highlight it and replace it with an SVG. This is the SVG, and that will produce this image. Now I'm going to style the image. I'm going to give it a width and height of 6, which is size 6, and then text gray 500, and it looks this way. That looks like what we have here at the top section. Now let's move over to the next section, which is this part of the design. We're going to call that the information section. So we have a section, and in the section, we're going to first make it rounded XL and padding 4, and the background will be indigo 700. Make it transparent by half. The width will be full. Let me move over to the original one. You can see it coming up here. The width will be full, and then of course I want a margin, vertical margin of 7, so that it is a little bit separated from the top and the bottom. And now let's create all this. There are 3 levels. This is the first level of flex. This is another level of flex. And then this is the third flex level. Oh, I didn't actually show you the interaction. There are some little interaction when you put your mouse over it. So let's now do the first level. If you take a look at the first level, you will see it contains 2 main parts. That is 2 rows. This row has its own flex stuff going on, and then this other one. So we're going to first do these 2 flex row. Let's do that here, and that will be flex. It's going to justify between. It's going to spread it out, and then it has padding 2 all around. So in here will be 2 divs. The first will be, as shown here, the profile and then the icon. So let's just put it this way. Text white. I'm going to remove that later. Profile. And then the second one will be the icon. So you see it is separated this way. To create the profile, we'll do that here. And then to create icon will be done on this other part. Let me give it a description. This is profile info and pictures, and this will contain SVG cogwheel icon with border. That is this SVG cogwheel icon with border. The first one is image and the info. So let's begin to do that. As you would notice, for the profile info and picture is also a flex that contains an image and then some text at the other side. I'm just going to take this out since we're going to start working on it. I'm going to change this to flex. We're still going to add some more classes, but let's just leave it this way. And I'm going to add the first item, which is the image, and also create a class. This image will be size 20. This image is not showing, should be double dot there, should be size 20. And then also I'm going to give it a rounded edge of XL. And as you can see, it contains image and text. So I want it to contain image and some text. Now let's just do div. So in here will be the text. So the text is here. Let me make it white. So right now we have the image and text as shown here. They are basically two items together. And as they are, I'm going to space them, space X4, and also make the text come to the center. So here will contain the textual information. And basically that would just be, let me open it up. I will just put an H4 Sandra and do another H4 Mandy. And I'm going to make it uppercase. And the font will be bold. The text will be cyan 50. I'm going to give it some tracking to space out a little bit. Let me take out text white. Yeah, so it blends in a little bit, and then a tracking white gives it a little bit line spacing. So you can see it's beginning to look like this. Then we have this strange button. The way we did this is actually we used two buttons. This here is a badge inside a button. So, and we use absolute positioning to put the badge, which is actually another button, inside this button. So let's do that here. The first thing I'm going to do is to create a relative div, and then in the relative div is where we do the buttons. So I'm going to say button. The first button will be the level, and then I'm going to make it flex so that if we're going to have two buttons, the second button we just have two. So I'm just going to separate it a little bit from the top, so it comes a little down. And then let's begin to change this. The level is going to be background cyan 100, and I'm also going to do a text cyan of 900. And then I'm going to make this text a little smaller, and also the font a little bolder. And then I'm going to give it a rounded corner, but this time it's only going to be on the left hand side. So it's going to be rounded LG, which is on the left hand side. And then I'm going to give it an horizontal padding of 2 so that it separates it a little bit. We can also do for the second button. The second button basically is the same thing. So let's just copy all this and put it here. We'll change this, instead of the left rounded, we'll change it to right rounded so that it joins with this. And then we change the text color to white, and then we change the background color to blue 400. And so you have this. Yeah, it looks a little bit like this. Yeah, basically. Maybe I'll change the first button to padding X 1.5. So it looks a little bit squished in. And the second button too can be padding X 1.5. We are done with this side, so let's move to the icon side, the other side for the cogwheel. Okay, let's put it all here. We have the cogwheel here. I'm going to change the color, text cyan 50, so it looks lighter. And then I'll change the width and height using the size class, size to 8. So it comes out a little bigger. Oh, I did it in the wrong place. It should be in here, size 8. So that makes it a little bigger. Now, if I put a border here and I want to put a padding, say padding 4, the padding will cover up all the SVG. So if you want to put a padding around it, like this way, you're going to have to put it in an external div. So I'm going to take all these out, and then I'm going to cut this and put a border. Okay. I'm putting inside a border div. I put in my SVG. I can now style the div to look like this. I'm going to give it rounded LG and give it a padding of 4. I'm going to make the padding 2. And then also the border will be cyan 50. it's going to be expanded. So you need to put all this in another div. So that the parent div is the one that is expanded, but the internal div is not expanded. So that's why you have this. If we check out the parent div, it is actually expanded, but the content inside is not expanded. This ends the profile pics part of the whole session. We have 3 levels in the session. This profile pics, we have the following and then the buttons. Now that we are done with the first level, we're going to move to the second level. Let's call this level 1, first level. The first level ends here. Then let's move to the second level. And in this level, you can see we have 3 rows of similar information. So this is going to be a lot easy to do. In the second level, we're going to start with a flex. And because the content are centered, we're just going to say justify center. And then we're going to create an X spacing between them. Say X spacing 7. And also give them a vertical margin 7 so that they separate from the other levels. And it's going to have a general text of cyan 50. And now we create each of the level here. But we're just going to start with, since they are the same thing, we're going to start with the first level. And let me put in the first content. The first content is an H3. Both are going to be H3. So I could say 1,239 followers. Okay, this should be 12,000. And I'm going to use the parent div to style the content here so that both has the same styling. So I'll say text XL. I'll make it a little big and the text are centered. I'm also going to create an over effect, and the over will be background cyan 800, but with a transparency of 50. And then I'm going to give it a padding of 2. You won't see the padding here until you put your mouse on it, and then also give it a rounded large. So this is what you get. When you put the mouse on it, you see this. And this is 1, and I'm going to do it into 3 places. Because it's in the flex, it's going to put them all in a row. So let's do that. So I repeated it, and you can see it's all put in a row. And I can now change the content. And that just about does the second level. We have it this way. Now let's move to the third level. And let's look at the third level. Is similar buttons that does similar things. So we're going to have 2 buttons and they're going to spread across. So let's do that. I'll add button to the description here. Now let's start by creating a div, and I'm going to put the 2 button in the div. It has a class there. We'll put the class here later. I will explain that later, but let's do the button. So for the button, the text will be following. We'll do the first button, and then we'll make a copy of the first button for the second one. I'm going to give it a border, and the border will be gray 400, and I'm going to give it some transparency so that it blends a little bit with the background. And then I'm going to make it a rounded border. I'll give it a padding Y of 3 and a padding X of 4. So it looks big. And then I'll make it widthful so it spans across the page. I'll make the text cyan 50, and make the text a little smaller. And I'll create an over effect. Let me cut this to the ground. An over effect that changes the vertical padding value and give it a duration of 300 for smooth transition. So when you put your mouse on it, the vertical padding changes a little bit. You can create whatever over effect you want. So these buttons, because they are very similar, I'm going to create 2 of it and name the second one Freeland Project. So now they are stacked on each other. And this is not the behavior I want. So I want them to be not on a column, but to be stacked on a row. So I'm going to come here. You can guess, just put a flex here, and then they will be stacked this way. And then I can space them out, say space X of 3. So it's spaced out, and maybe just put a little bit more margin between them. and the top and bottom. So you see this is what you get. And I'm going to change this over effects to translate instead of padding. So I'll say translate Y1 so that it moves down. If you do this, it's going to be moving down, but I want it to move up. So I'm going to put a minus just in front to negate the movement. So when you put your mouse on it, it moves up. So there you go with the third card. We have all the effects. It looks actually similar to the example we have here, with a few exceptions. This exception of changing the translate instead of using a padding. I don't want it to be shaking this way. That's why I decided to use the translate. So this looks a little bit better. And every part of it works. And I would like to add some interaction to the first level, the SVG on the first level, this cogwheel. So let's add an over effect. Let's scale it down a little bit, 95 scale, so that, and then let's give it a duration so that it will be smooth. Duration 300, so that when you over it, it gives you this very simple, smooth change.